Hey guys, welcome back. Now, if you have seen the first video, this is me reading the Sisters Grimm. If you haven't, I would suggest go watching the first video. It should be the last posted one on my channel. Now, let us begin. The Sisters Grimm, Book 1, The Fairy Tale Detectives. Ooh, not the 10th anniversary edition. For this book, at least. This is the cover art. Pretty good, might I say. This is by Michael Buckley and pictures by Peter Ferguson? I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. If not, you can roast me in the comments. I do have those in... I'll check when I'm done. In memory of my grandparents, Basil and Relda Grandi. Now, I might get some pronunciations wrong. Sorry. You can, again, roast me in the comments. In the distance, a thunderous bellow rang out, followed by the terrible sound of falling trees and a stampede of terrified animals. It was coming, and there was no way to outrun it. Still, Sabrina and Daphne had to try. They sprinted as fast as they could, fighting with every step, the dense forest branches that scratched at their arms and faces. "We have to find some way to stop it," Daphne cried between gasps. Sabrina knew her little sister was right, but how? They were two children versus a ferocious monster. "I'll think of something," she said, dragging her sister behind an enormous oak tree for a much-needed rest. Sabrina squeezed Daphne's hand to reassure her while she forced air into her own burning lungs. Her words sounded empty in her ears. She didn't have a plan, and even if she did, it wouldn't make a difference. The creature was on top of them, splintering wood and damp soil rained from the sky as the tree they crouched behind was violently uprooted. The two girls looked up onto the horrible space above them and felt scorching breaths blow through their hair. What has happened to our lives? Sabrina wondered. When did the world become unrecognizable? And what happened to her, the 11-year-old girl who only 2 days prior had been an orphan on a train? Chapter 1. 2 days earlier. "I'm going to die of boredom," Sabrina Grimm thought, as she looked out the window at Ferryport Landing, New York, approaching in the distance. The little town seemed to be made mostly of hills and trees next to the cold, gray Hudson River. Endless acres of evergreen forest surrounded it, as if trying to hide its existence from the rest of the world. A few 2- and 3-story buildings huddled around what appeared to be the town's only street. Sabrina couldn't see any movie theaters, malls, or museums, and she felt using the word town to describe Ferryport Landing was a bit of a stretch. The weather wasn't helping. It was raining, and rain always made her melancholy. It had been raining the day her parents abandoned her a year and a half ago, and it still made her heart ache. She remembered the day clearly, rushing home that afternoon with a report card safely tucked under her raincoat, excited about her A's in math and B in English and her B in science, and a little disappointed in her C- in gym. She proudly taped her grades to the refrigerator for everyone to see when they got home. It seemed odd that her parents weren't there, but Sabrina didn't worry until Daphne's kindergarten teacher called to find out that no one had picked up the little girl. That night, the girls slept in their parents' bed, waiting for them to come home with thunder crashing in the sky outside. When the social workers came 3 days later to take them away, it was still raining, and Sabrina's report card was still hanging on the refrigerator, awaiting its praise. For all Sabrina knew, it was still there. The police investigated the disappearance. They searched the family's New York City apartment for clues. They interviewed neighbors and co-workers. They tested for fingerprints and filed reports. But Henry and Veronica Grimm had vanished into thin air. Months later, the police found their abandoned car, deserted in a lonely park 50 miles north of the city. The only clue was a blood-red handprint on the dashboard that turned out to be a paint, but didn't lead to anything else. The investigation came to a dead end, and the cops eventually gave up the search. The kids were placed under the care of social services at first. A nice but overworked man named Todd searched for a next of kin, someone who could take them, but became as empty as the police. No aunts, uncles, grandparents, brothers, sisters, or even distant, twice-removed cousins existed. Todd promised to keep trying, but when Sabrina and Daphne were moved to an orphanage, they never saw him again. Sabrina shook off the sad moments and tucked her long blonde hair behind her ears. She felt like crying, but couldn't let her sister see her blubbering. She needed to be the strong one. After all, she was almost 12 years old. Bad mentality for a child, but for their situation, I kind of understand it. She wants to keep her sister safe. Not that Daphne would have noticed. At that moment, Sabrina's 7-year-old sister had her face pressed against the train's window as she had for the entire 2-hour trip. She marveled at each ugly little dot on the map they rolled through, like they were Paris, Rome, and Los Angeles. She only occasionally took breaks from the view to ask questions about their destination. Do they have bagels in Ferryport Landing, Miss Smirt? Miss Smirt? Yes, Miss Smirt. Daphne asked the woman sitting across from them. Miss Minerva Smirt was the kid's caseworker from the orphanage. She was a pinch-lipped, humorless woman in her late 50s. As usual, her hooked nose was buried in a book. Sabrina knew she was reading, only so she wouldn't have to talk to them. Miss Smirt looked up at Daphne with an annoyed scowl and sighed as if the girl's questions were more than she could bear. Of course they have bagels. They have bagels everywhere, Miss Smirt snapped. Not on the moon, Daphne replied matter-of-factly as she returned her gaze to the window. Miss Smirt snarled and Daphne snickered. And Sabrina snickered. Why do I keep doing that? It was so easy to get on the woman's nerves, and Daphne was particularly good at it. Smirt had made a terrible mistake when she chose a case working with children, Sabrina thought, especially when she didn't seem to like them. The woman complained whenever she had to touch their sticky hands or wipe their runny noses, and reading bedtime stories was completely out of the question. She seemed to especially dislike the Grimm sisters, labeling them rude, uncooperative, and a couple of know-it-alls. So Sabrina made sure it was Miss Smirt's personal mission to get the girls out of the orphanage and into a foster home. So far, she had failed miserably. So Sabrina was sure it was Miss Smirt's personal mission to get the girls out of the orphanage and into a foster home. I messed up that sentence. My bad. So far, she had failed miserably, sending them to live with people who were usually mean and occasionally crazy. Aren't we all a little crazy, though? But you'll understand why they're that bad later on. Some used them as maids and house sitters, while others just plain ignored them. This time, however, Smirt had gone too far. This time, she was sending them to live with a dead woman. Just wait. I hope you don't bother your grandmother with all these ridiculous questions, Miss Smirt said curtly, which was how she said most things to Sabrina and Daphne. She is old and can't handle a lot of trouble. She's dead. I already told you 1,000,000 times our grandmother is dead, said Sabrina. We did a background check, Sally, Miss Smirt replied. She is who she says she is. My name is Sabrina. Sabrina sighed. Whatever, the orphanage will not just release you into anyone's custody, said Miss Smirt. Oh, really? What about Miss Lagoon? Langondon. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. If I am, sorry. Again, roast me in the comments. Who swore her toilet was haunted? Said Sabrina. Everyone has their quirks. Or Mr. Denchen, who made us sleep in his truck, Daphne chimed in. Some people love the great outdoors. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson handcuffed us to a radiator, Sabrina cried. Miss Smirt rolled her eyes. You act like it was the end of the world. Imagine how hard it's been on me. I was mortified when I heard what you did to the Kentons. They locked us in their house for 2 weeks so they could go on a cruise to Bora Bora, Sabrina said. I thought it was the Bahamas, Daphne said. It was Bermuda, and they brought you back. And they brought you both back some lovely t-shirts, said Miss Smirt. Anyway, it's all water under the bridge now. We found a real relative who's actually eager to take you into her home, and not a moment too soon, to be honest. We have run out of families looking for rude little girls. Even if she were an imposter, I would hand you over to her. With that, Miss Smirt put her nose back into her book. Sabrina looked at the title. It was called How to Get the Love You Want. The conductor's voice rang out from the speakers on the ceiling. He called Fairport Landing was the next and last stop. What's an imposter? Daphne asked. It's a person who pretends to be someone she's not, Sabrina said. Do you really think there's any chance she's really a grandmother? Not a chance. Daphne whispered into her sister's ear. Dad told me she died before we were even born. No, she's some crackpot, but don't worry, we'll be gone before the crazy old bat knows what's happened. The train slowed down as it pulled into the station, and passengers got up from their seats. They took down their bags from luggage racks above and tossed half-read newspapers onto the coffee-stained floor before heading out the doors. Ladies, let's go, Miss Smirt ordered. Sabrina didn't want to meet this imposter. One sec, dears. But she knew better than to argue with the old crone. Smirt had a reputation as a pincher, and she left more than a few nasty purple bruises on backtracking orphans. So Sabrina did as she was told and dragged Daphne and her tiny suitcases down from the rack and followed Miss Smirt and her sister off the train. Now, this is where the first deviation in the TV show that you can actually see is. In the TV show, they had one backpack. In the book, they had suitcases. They both have suitcases instead of just one backpack. So, yeah. The rain was bitterly cold. Daphne shivered, so Sabrina wrapped her arm around her sister's shoulders and held her tightly as they disembarked onto the crowded platform. Two of you better be polite, or there's going to be trouble, Miss Smirt said. No sass, no backtalk. Stand up straight and act like young ladies for once, or so help me out. Miss Smirt? A chubby old woman interrupted the caseworker's threat. She was dressed in an ankle-lace navy blue dress and had a white knitted shawl around her shoulders. Her gray hair was streaked with red, hinting at its original color. And she wore it tightly tucked under a matching navy blue hat with an... Now, I might get this word wrong, so again, roast me in the comments if you want. An appliquage? Either a hat pin or a accessory that's on the hat of a big, fuzzy sunflower in the middle. Her face was a collection of wrinkles and sagging skin. Nevertheless, there was something useful about her. Perhaps it was her red cheeks and clear green eyes. Next to her stood the skinniest man Sabrina's ever seen. He wore a dark pinstripe suit that seemed several sizes too big and held a wide umbrella in one hand and his hat in the other. His head was full of untamed platinum hair, and his enormous watery eyes were hidden beneath wild, unkept brows. Yes, Miss Grimm, it's us, Miss Smirt said, forcing her usual frown into a smile. Sabrina? Daphne? The woman cried with a hint of a German accent. I'm not going to try to attempt that, otherwise I may butcher it. Oh, you both are so wonderful. What little darlings. I'm your grandmother Grimm. Now, there is a picture on this page, so I shall show it to you. It is this. Making sure you guys can see it. There we go. She wrapped her arms around the girls and pulled them close. The girls squirmed to escape, but the old woman was like an over-affectionate octopus. Miss Grimm, it's lovely. It's so nice to meet you. Miss Smirt intervened. I'm Minerva Smirt. We spoke on the phone. The old woman raised herself up to her full height, which wasn't very high, and cocked an eyebrow at the caseworker. Miss Sabrina could have sworn she saw the old woman smirk. It's so nice to meet you, Miss Grimm said stiffly. I'm so thrilled to have helped you and the girls reunite. Oh, I'm sure you are, Miss Grimm said, turning her back on the caseworker and giving the girls a wink. She placed a hand on each girl's shoulder and turned them toward her companion. Girls, this is Mr. Canis. He helps me take care of our house and other matters. He lives with us too, and he'll be helping me look after you, she said. Daphne and Sabrina stared up into the old man's gaunt face. He was so frail it seemed as though the umbrella he was holding might collapse on him at any moment. He nodded, silent as a statue, then handed Miss Grimm the umbrellas. He took the two suitcases from Sabrina and walked down the platform toward the parking lot. Well, ladies, this looks like goodbye, Miss Smart, said Miss Smart. She stepped and he hugged Daphne, whispering something in her ear that made the little girl cringe. Then she hugged Sabrina in her uncomfortable embrace. Let's make this the last time we see each other. She gave Sabrina a final painful pinch before the girl could pull away. Then she turned back to the old woman. Good luck, Miss Grimm. She reached out to shake Mrs. Grimm's hand, but the old woman looked as if the caseworker was trying to give her something smelly and dead. Smart sensed her disapproval, hemmed and hawed for a moment, then quickly reboarded the train without looking back. The door shut, and soon it pulled away, back to New York City. Miss Grimm directed the girls down the platform, unloading a barrage of kisses that continued all the way to the parking lot. Mr. Canis was waiting there, next to a rusty heap of a car that squealed in protest when he opened the back door. Is this safe? It got us? Is this safe? Sabrina asked. It got us here, the old woman laughed. I suppose it will get us back. The girls crawled inside to find the interior was as ancient and shabby as the outside. Springs and foam erupted from the seat cushions, and when Sabrina looked down, she could see a hole in the floorboard that revealed the pavement below. Put on your seatbelts, Miss Grimm said. The girls searched for the belts, but only found two ends of a frayed rope buried in their seats. These? Daphne asked. Miss Grimm reached around, tied both ends together over the latch, then smiled. There! Safety first, she cried. Mr. Canis started the engine, and it sputtered, backfired, and then roared to life, belching a black fog out of the tailpipe. When he put it into drive, an orchestra of gears screamed so loudly that Sabrina thought she might go deaf. Daphne plugged her fingers into her ears. Miss Grimm turned to the girls and shouted something Sabrina couldn't hear. What? What? Sabrina shouted back. What? The old woman asked. I can't hear you, Sabrina yelled. More than 6, the old woman replied. 6 what? Sabrina screamed. Properly, the old woman laughed. I love dolphins too, Daphne exclaimed. Not since I hurt my toes, Miss Grimm shouted. Sabrina put her face in her hands and groaned. They drove through the little town, which consisted of a 2-lane road bordered by a couple of antique stores, a bicycle shop, a police station and jail, a post office, a dentist, a restaurant named Old King Cole's, a toy store, and a beauty bar. Mr. Canis made a left turn at the town's one and only stoplight. Within seconds, they were cruising out of the town proper and into what Mrs. Grimm called Ferryport Landing's farm country. As far as Sabrina could tell, the only crop this town grew was mud. After a long drive, Mrs. Grimm's house came into view. It sat up on a tree-speckled hill, 15 minutes away from the closest neighbor. It was short and squat. However you pronounce that. Much like its owner, it's 2 stories, a wraparound porch, a small window framed by bright blue shutters. It was painted yellow and had fat green shrubs lining the cobblestone pathway that led to the front door. It might have looked cozy, if not for the looming forest behind it. Branches hung over the roof as if the trees were preparing to swallow the house whole. You live in a dollhouse, Daphne declared, oblivious to the creepy woods. What am I checking something? I was just checking how many pages on this chapter. I've only gotten through 12. Huh. Slower than when I normally read it myself. Dollhouse. Miss Grimm. Miss Grimm smiled, but Sabrina wasn't amused. This place was troubling and weird, and she felt as if she were being watched. She squinted into the dense trees. But if anyone was spying, he or she was well hidden. "Why do you live all the way out here?" she asked. New York City was a place where everyone lived on top of each other, and that was exactly how Sabrina liked it. Living out in the middle of nowhere was dangerous and suspicious. "Oh, I like the peace and quiet," said Miss Grimm. Now, that is where we are going to stop for the day. We are about 12 pages into the book, about barely halfway through the first chapter. Well, almost halfway through the first chapter. Now, as I said before in my intro, I don't plan on making any money off of me reading these. I don't expect to, at least. So, this is just me reaching out to you all and hoping to get more people into this book. Now, that being said, that'll be all, and I'll see you next time. Bye!